Do you believe the US government has all the gold that it claims to have?
No, I don't. But I don't have evidence to prove it. A lot of people write about it and explain it. But no, in a way, if they did, why wouldn't they want to clear the air? Why wouldn't they have a commission that I was included in? Let's go and see and convince us that you have the gold. So no, and even if they showed us the gold, maybe the gold has been loaned out. They do a lot of loaning gold, and they have other ways of having a gimmick to deceive the people, and they can get away with that for years and years because from the beginning of the Fed with the gold at $20 an ounce, it went all the way to 1971 by just lying to the people. And then when they said we have to admit, well, we're broke and we don't have the gold, what happened to the ratio from 1971 to 1979, 1980? Gold went from $35 an ounce up to $3,000 where it is now, close to $3,000.
Hello guys, David Vose here. Oh man, what a beautiful day. It is so beautiful. It's like in the 60s, blue skies, a touch of wind here and there, but it's really nice. Even this morning when I woke up early, where it's usually cold in the early mornings, it was warm. I could sit on the porch without a sweater or anything. But I hope you're having a wonderful day. So, did you hear what Rand Paul said? Or Ron Paul, I'm sorry. That's Rand Paul's dad. He says he doesn't think the gold's there. Now, if anybody should know, it would probably be him. I mean, I don't know who would be the expert on this, but he certainly is an economic expert. And a truthful one. That's why he's no longer in Congress, and it's his son, Rand Paul, who's been trying to get an audit of the Fed for a long time. He was always trying to do it, and an audit of the money and everything, but they never would do it. He signed a bill with somebody Helms or something, back in, I don't know when it was, to try and get them to audit it, but they wouldn't do it. Now think about it. All of a sudden, Trump's talking about this gold. You know that everybody and their cousin in the world that is involved in finance knows about this. All the Congress, all the Senate, and the bankers, and everybody knows what's about to happen. And if you think that nobody knows where the gold is, they're just waiting to find out when they open the door, you're nuts. You are nuts. These people that run JP Morgan, I mean, JP Morgan's got the gold. Half of it's down underneath JP Morgan's bank, some big skyscraper at the Federal Reserve across the street. And there's tunnels going back and forth under the Federal Reserve and JP Morgan. And a bunch of the gold is supposed to be in the basement, like 5 stories down at the Federal Reserve. And a bunch of it's supposed to be under JP Morgan. Now, I have not figured out why a bank and some private man who owns a bank would be storing all the gold for the whole world and be saying, oh, I'm not going to let you audit it. I'm not going to tell you how much is still there or if we took any, or we're not even going to say a word. We're not going to let you go down there and look at it. And we haven't even looked at it. Nobody knows, right? Bullcrap. It is such a farce. I can't believe the American people are just sitting there. I mean, they're setting us up for something. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this video. You could probably see all kind of videos on the internet right now about the gold that they're going to be looking at. But nobody has a clue. Nobody has the common sense to even talk to you straightforwardly or factually, just straight up, face to face, just spill the beans, be honest. We know that we're about to go through a reset. We know that they've been bringing gold over, I guess, plane loads of it every week or something from all around the world. Somebody's moving gold. It's being moved from somewhere around the world to the United States. It's been happening And the price of gold is just surged to $3,000 an ounce. It's never been that high before. And I've got a theory as to why that's happening. You could just briefly, let me just point out a couple things. This is not my conclusion by any means, but imagine if they do open it and there's no gold. Well, obviously they knew that, right? Trump, I'm sure, has been told somebody who must know something. Oh yeah, there's no gold in there. It's a secret that nobody knows, but everybody knows what's going on and should be knowing, which is the people that have been destroying us and looting our financial system and doing this MK mind-altering control on America and the world. People who are running the CIA and the FBI and the NHS and the Pentagon and all these people. I mean, well, you might, if you really want to know who's in charge, you might go to Hollywood or something, or maybe over there in the Bavarian Illuminati. Or how about BlackRock, which Vance works for them? How about Mr. Fink? Why don't you go ask him? But nobody's going to ask him. But I'll guarantee that since Trump was financed by the Rothschilds, remember the whole scheme where he had 3 casinos in Atlantic City and he supposedly went broke? I'll guarantee you one thing. You don't go broke when you got a building where you have boxes with handles and people come in and put their money in and turn a handle and watch little apples and pineapples and diamonds go ding, 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 ding. And that's their fun. They just give you money. Thousands of dollars. Some people spend their whole fortune in a day or in a week in those places. And he was hosting Mike Tyson boxing matches and all the big boxing matches back in the day. He made millions and millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars off those 3 casinos. He was the only man in town, basically. I mean, he didn't have to compete with David Wynn in Las Vegas or something. Or the Taj Mahal or any of these circus people. I mean, he had it all sewed up and supposedly he lost all of his money, went bankrupt. Well, he didn't really. He had a guy working for him who is this Cohen, which means priest in Jewish. And he was the one that was doing all the shenanigans. He was like the Epstein before Epstein took over. Trump was really in with him, and he was just manipulating the world. And he was the front man for the Bavarian Illuminati. And worked for the Rothschilds, and they supposedly bailed him out. Well, that's what he told us. But he never went bankrupt. What they did is they took all of his billions and billions of dollars that Trump had and put it somewhere. And then they said, oh, we're bankrupt. We don't have any money. Because they just took their books and worked them over and, falsified all the records and said, we don't have any money. We can't pay it back. We're going to go bankrupt. And then just start over. But he's got billions of dollars still. How? In what way? How do you not keep track of it? How about gold? Well, what if... So they open it up. There's no gold. They already knew that. What's their plan if that's the case? Well, remember, we were supposed to go through a reset. Also, remember, the whole thing's called Doge, D-O-G-E, which is a digital Bitcoin type thing that is run by Elon. And he's already making big money off of that. People are buying into it because of everything's going on. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a laundering thing, this Bitcoin. It's laundering money because it's not worth anything. It's just a piece of aluminum. It's not even it's probably plastic. These little coins, they're not even real coins. It's digital. So they don't have any expense. There's no money involved. Just buying a database on the computer net or whatever. That's all you need to spend. And then you got to have clout and you got to say, hey, I'm Elon Musk, richest man in the world, buy my coin. And people are like, oh, let's go buy it. And so they buy nothing for something. And the more people buy, the more it's worth. And then boom, one piece of nothing is worth $1 million. So what do they do with it? Well, there's no record of anything. So it goes up and down every day. Nobody could keep track of it. So it's a laundering way that people, because you don't know whose Bitcoin it is. It's not regulated by the financial system. They tell you it could go down tomorrow. You're broke. You're done. You spend $1,000. One day it's up double. The next day you lost everything. So that's how they do it. They just say, oh, market went out. No more Bitcoin. All this millions of dollars people put into this Bitcoin is gone now. Well, where'd the money go that people paid for it? Cash. Right? Was it transferred into digital nothing? Or was it given to the people that had the nothing, and they gave you the nothing, and you gave them the money? Well, who got all the money? All this Bitcoin has been going up and down, and losing. They've been slowly draining the financial market over the last 20 years. Or I don't know, well, it's not been 20 years, but over the last 5 years or so, Bitcoin has been draining the market. Everybody's buying into it, and then boom, the market collapses. And see, people make a lot of money doing that, right? But most people, the little guy who can't say anything or nobody cares about, they lose. So all the thousands of people put their fortunes in there, lose all their money, and the people that know what's going to happen tomorrow, because they're like Pelosi and her husband, they control the markets. Well, they make the money. So if you had to ask why is all this gold coming into the United States? Well, we got two possibilities. One is that they're buying gold right now because they know they're about to do something, and we're gonna have a gold standard. They're talking about making a Bitcoin with a gold-backed currency, maybe Doge or something. But why would all these powerful bankers and important people be buying gold now when it's $3,000? I mean, the Federal Reserve gold's only worth $45 or less than $45 an ounce. It is really $3,000 an ounce. They're talking about evaluating that. Well, then it would be, they say, $1 trillion. So what? We got $36 trillion in debt. And it's far more than that if you include Social Security and all the other things. Of course, Trump is going through the Social Security and purging out billions and revamping and firing everybody. So it looks like he is trying to set something up so we could be solvent. And I think it's going to be some kind of a digital coin like Doge, I'll betcha. And so they need gold for that. So the gold didn't disappear. If they took it, well, where did they take it? It's somewhere, right? They don't just throw the gold away and say, ha ha, we stole it, now it's gone. Well, we might not know where it is, but I guarantee we'll find out when we see who's got all the money after this is all over. And who is it? These people who had the money. The bankers, the Federal Reserve, the Barbarian Illuminati. Yeah, they already bought all the... If it's not there, then they took it. Okay, so they don't need to buy it, they got it. So why would they be buying it? Well, maybe what they're doing is they're going to sell. They're going to say, oh, let's bump it up to $3,000. It was $45. Now we're going to say, hey, it's worth $3,000 an ounce, which it is on the market. And then they'll sell it to the government. Right? So they stole it and sell it back to us. Or they just say, oh, it's not there. But we've been buying all this gold for the last 10 years. You know, all this reports of gold coming into America. But yeah, we bought it from mining companies. On the ledger, on the books, that's what it says. But where did he buy it from? Are they been mining it? Maybe some of it. But do you think they've been buying it for $3,000 an ounce? No. They're just saying all this gold that we stole from the reserve in the United States, we got piles and piles and tons of gold, and we stole it all, but we'll say we bought it. We'll just write a piece of paper in a ledger saying we bought it. And we'll say we... So maybe they could buy it for $45 and then mark it up to $3,000. I don't know. There's all kinds of little schemes and things that they could be doing. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I want to share a couple of clips with you, and then we'll talk about this. Look at this. This is a video of a supposed audit that they did in 1974. Supposedly the last one they've done. Well, how could you call that an audit? All they did was open the door. And what you could see by stepping in over the altar or the threshold of the door. And by the way, that's another good point. We never get to do videos in this deep stuff, and it just pops in my mind as we're going through. But do you know why, when a man and a woman get married, that it's a tradition that the man picks up his now wife, holds her, and the woman's not allowed to go into the house, but that the man has to carry her over the threshold? Well, it's because the threshold is the door that where the curtain is in the temple. And the temple is a bridal chamber. And the wedding that Yahweh offered us was a scam, because you could not get into the holy place. You could not actually be one. The man and the woman couldn't be one. So Jesus said, what our Heavenly Father yoked together, Adam and Eve were one, male and female made he them, and they were one. Let no man put asunder. Well, how do you put asunder something that no man could put asunder? Through law, through lying, through making the man and the woman not one. And therefore, we're all trying to get back to the oneness, right? So, before a man can enter into that temple, he must become one with a woman. This is why the wedding must occur before we go through that curtain, or the veil, which is why you've got to lift the veil on the woman. Because the man ain't going to ever know any beautiful thing until he lifts that veil and goes through the curtain as one with her. Because she is the feminine Shekinah glory that's being veiled by the curtain. So the temple is not some earthly temple. It may be the body. That might be the temple, according to Paul, and it is. But it's a little more than that. It's the right of human beings going back to the oneness, where the male and the female are equal again. They become one by the man lifting the veil and going in under his wife, and he has to do the hard work in building the tabernacle and, putting down all the construction and providing. But the woman is that pure, beautiful bliss that he's doing it all for. But no one's going to ever attain unto that beautiful bliss without opening the veil and going in unto the Shekinah. And you've got to carry her over the threshold. So that's where that comes from. But back in 1974, they showed us going through the vault. And you go in, you cross the threshold, and you look around, and there's all these supposed gold bars. We don't even know if they're gold. Nobody audited it. Nobody counted it. Nobody did anything. But this is a picture of what we saw in 1974. So there was the gold, and you saw it, right? It's all accounted for. Well, it wasn't. They didn't count it. They didn't audit it. They showed you a picture of it, and only a small portion of it. And that was back in 1974. Are you telling me they don't know what's there? Nobody's gone down there to look? Nobody can tell you? Or that we don't have a right to even get a yay or a nay on this? Oh, something's wrong here, friends. So here's what Trump said the other day at his, I think it was a CPAC speech that he gave.
We're also going to Fort Knox. I'm going to go with Elon. And would anybody like to join us? Because we want to see if the gold is still there. We want to see. Wouldn't that be terrible? We open up this Fort Knox. It's just solid granite that's 5 feet thick. The front door, you need 6 musclemen to open it up. I don't even think they have windows. Wouldn't that be terrible if we opened it up and there was no gold there? Like,
Notice Trump said, "Oi." That's the first word in the two-word phrase "oy vey." That's "oi," which is a Jewish expression. It's Yiddish, which is Jewish people who lived in the Germanic area, and they spoke a German Jewish, so they call it Yiddish. And they would say "oy vey." But the "oi" part that Trump said was the first part, and it just means "oh." The second part is "they," and that means "woe." So it's like, "Oh, woe is me," or, some consternation of mind. You're exasperated. Oh, no. But normally, people in America, we don't say "oy vey." You hear it in America from Jewish people, movie stars and things like that, but it's not an expression that we use. Now, Trump could have just accidentally said "oi," and it's interesting he didn't say "oy vey." It sounded as if he fell back into sort of habit. He was going to say "oy vey," but then it would have sounded Jewish, so he cut himself short. He's like, "Oi, let's not say that second part." So Trump undoubtedly is Jewish, and his ancestors spoke Yiddish. His original name was spelled Drumpf, which is a German name. So that's just a side note, but I'll continue on here.
so we're going to open those doors. We're going to take a look. And if there's 27 tons of gold, we'll be very happy. I don't know how the hell we're going to measure it, but that's okay.
Now, already I'm hearing all kinds of weird things going on here. He says 27 tons. That's a new one, because I've heard 5 tons. I've heard 8 tons. I think that it's 8 tons, or maybe closer to 9. And there's 4 something tons here and 4 something tons there. And maybe that's where they get the 5 ton idea. It's rounding it off from 4 tons. But just what's in the Federal Reserve. And there's another 5 tons under JP Morgan's bank, which I have no clue why one man who owns a bank, it's a business, would just be allowed to store all of our gold under his bank. And if it's missing, shouldn't he be responsible? Besides, he's right across the street from the Fed, where the rest of it's stored, and there's a tunnel between the two. So I would arrest him immediately and his entire family and take all the money he's got, transfer it to the United States, because he stole it from us. But that's another thing. So what is the 27 billion? Was Trump just, jesting? Was he just making a joke, a little ha-ha, a funny? Why is he proposing that there might not be any gold? I saw a clip of Elon doing the same thing, which I'll show you here presently. They're both making the rounds, doing their speeches at the CPAC or on some television program. Elon Musk was being interviewed by some news agency, and he was laughing about he don't know if the gold's there. He didn't think it is. And okay, and your company's named Doge, and your company, which is a digital Bitcoin thing, I think they call it cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is kind of like Bitcoin. But the interesting thing is, like Bitcoin, the value is that it's scarce and there's not a lot of coins, and they mine them, whatever that means, but not often. But Dogecoin is they mine millions of it every week, or I don't know. It's not scarce, but it's growing, and obviously intended to become the world currency, obviously. And with this latest move with him calling his department of the newly formed department of the government, which is taking down and firing everybody and revamping the finances and auditing the Fed and the gold reserve and all this stuff, obviously Doge is going to be our new currency, friends. And how are they going to get people to go buy it? Well, they'll have to bankrupt the rest of the world. Part of that might be, oh, there's no gold there. Oh, reset. Banking, is gone as we know it. And Trump will establish a financial institution, some kind of a cryptocurrency, maybe Doge, I believe, which makes both Elon and Trump equally rich and powerful or something. And they will run, and their families and for generations they'll run. But I don't think they're doing it for themselves. I honestly think they're sincere. Elon is doing it for his ancestors, these people, these Bavarians, Mr. Fink, and all the rest. I think that they appointed Zuckerberger over the DARPA program of the CIA called Facebook. I think they appointed the clown Bezos to create a big AI and a big Amazon where they drop all the food off at your door with a drone here coming up. It's all AI. And the Goggle brothers and all these guys are appointed. Bill Gates was appointed over Microsoft, a division of IBM, which his mother was on the board. So Trump is the man chosen to lead up the effort, the face, the president, to be forever enshrined with a big statue. He'll be their Messiah. Maybe Elon's the false prophet, maybe the next pope, who knows. And you'll all, if you want to eat and you want to live and you want to continue on, you got to get your money back. They stole it, it's gone. And they'll just say, hey, we'll give you the same amount of money you had in the bank, we'll give it to you. But it's going to be in Dogecoins. And in order to participate, you've got to agree to keep the law of Moses and write it on your hand or your forehead. That's the mark of the beast. I think that's probably some form of that, what might be going to happen. I've already spilled the beans. But I know, I don't just think, I know something's about to go down. It's some kind of reset. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to use Dogecoin for sure, but I think they probably will. Or say, hey, we're going to give you some Bitcoin, which is backed by gold. Now, where'd we get the gold? Well, we've been buying it at $3,000 an ounce. No, they weren't. They ain't. So, there's a lot of craziness going on. There's no reason for them to be advertising at this juncture that there might not be any gold there when they go and they look. And he's laughing about it. I mean, that would be the end of America. That's the reset that they're looking for. And I can see them just saying, well, we'll take this gold that you think is gone, but somehow or another, we bought some gold, right? Got a good deal on it. And we're going to give you Doge. It'll save the country. Elon will be the savior. We'll all get our little Bitcoin. And they'll say, how much did you lose? Oh, you had $1,000 in the bank. We'll give you 1,000 Doge coins. And it's backed by gold. But it was your gold to start with. Right? So now they're going to say, if you want in on this deal, only people who will be our dogs. You remember the Judean people think that Gentiles are dogs, doges. It's got a dog as its symbol. If you want to obey the government and get a mark upon your hand or your forehead, you can participate. Friends, if the Bible's correct, the mark of the beast is coming. Now, I think we're already got the mark of the beast. If you're in the system, you're buying and selling, then you're already worshiping the government. If you don't live in the Lord's world, in nature, and have the kingdom of love and all things common, but instead you're embracing the government and you're basically worship, you're bowing to it like a golden bull, like a golden calf. I mean, it's obvious because Wall Street's got a golden calf. That's what it's all about. They're not trying to hide the fact that they're wanting you to worship Satan. And they want this Nasera laws to take effect where we're all going to have to take a covenant upon our hand and our forehead, which is the law of Moses. I believe that you'll have to take upon your hand or forehead you don't even have to write it literally, but under the law in Deuteronomy and Exodus, in order to prove your faithfulness to Yahweh, you had to write the law, some of the commandments from the 10 Commandments on your hand or your forehead to show your loyalty and bow down. And this means you had to bow down to Yahweh, the deity of vengeance and hate. And you had to murder your brethren, the dogs, the Gentiles. You had to agree to slavery and all of these things. Well, there's not going to be any slavery, Dave. Stop it. Well, this is slavery. Getting a job, and Trump's right out there in front. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Oh, you're hired if you'll do what I say and get down and grovel and do exactly what I say. I think this man's the Antichrist, friends. I'm just saying, if the Pope is anything, if you're getting a new one or whatever, it's going to have to be the false prophet. But I think that might have already been taken, that slot, by Elon. But there's even people saying that from the time he was born, he was different. His babysitter said his mother said that he was the false prophet. His mother told him that. And she saw this kid doing weird satanic rituals. And he was like smart from the time he was little or whatever. I don't believe any of this stuff. I think it's all propaganda. That's why when you go onto YouTube or TikTok, all you see is Elon Musk is the greatest man that ever lived. And everybody's praising him. Same with Trump and all the rest. But while I do think that people are essentially, for all practical purposes, already worshiping the beast, I think if their mind, maybe it's kind of like that, if you looked at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. So if they're going to take the mark of the beast, they're already worshiping the beast now. But the only reason why I think there may very well be a literal thing to this mark of the beast, and it's not just some kind of symbolic, we're worshiping the government because of our actions, but it does say very specifically, the whole 1,260 days is a very specific and literal time period that we're looking for. The angel raised his left and right hand. He swore by heaven and earth and the one who made heaven and earth that it shall be only for a time, times, and a half a time. And happy and holy is he that arrives at the 1,335 days. I believe that's a literal number, no question in my mind. And we're supposed to look out for the abomination that was spoken of by Daniel the prophet. And then from that point forward, count it. And friends, I am telling you beyond a doubt, this is correct, what I'm about to tell you here. It says, let him who hath wisdom count the number of the beast. Let him who hath wisdom, well, that's Sophia, whoever has the Holy Spirit, the Divine Mother, she will teach you all things you need to know. But what I'm trying to get at here is counting. You see, at that time, when this happens, friends, listen carefully. At this time, because it's happening, only the wise shall shine as brightness as the stars of heaven and bring the many to righteousness. Only the wise will be able to count the number of the beast. Now, what is the number of the beast? Well, the beast shall have 1,260 days. And when you see the abomination spoken of by Daniel the prophet, then you will know the angel swore it shall be 1,260 days. And only those who are wise will start counting. Now, why does it call it the number of the beast? Well, it's the number of days that the beast will reign. But then doesn't it go on to say his number is 666? There's 3 letters. One represents 600, one represents 60, and one represents 6. And people have been baffled by this for 2,000 years. But as we've been saying in these videos that we've been doing, astrology is 666. And it doesn't mean it's evil. It means it's of this world. Because we're living in the astrological wheel that has 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and 6 times 6 is 36, or 360 degrees. So it's a 360 degree sphere that is broken up into 60s. and tens, because we have the deca system, or the, we count to 10 and we start over. But in the ancient days, the true science was sort of 3D. It wasn't just a straight 10 count. They used a system of 10s and 60s. And so it was 66. And it was 6 equilateral triangles of 60 degrees. That is what the 666 is, which is the lower nature of the astrological beast. The beasts that rule over you in the 6 houses at the bottom of the wheel. And so what does that have to do with 1,260 days? Well, 1,260 days is 3.5 years. And all of the cycle of time that we go through is 7 times. Because there's 7 days in a week, and then it's cyclical, and every Sabbath you rest, so it's 7s. 3.5 is half a 7. So we're saying that the darkness, the physical realm, which is the 666, which is the houses of darkness that the beast rules. So you can say it 660 and 6. But if you have wisdom, you will understand that you must begin counting, because you will only have, and the angel swore it, 1,260 days. And then Jesus shall arrive on the clouds of heaven, and every eye will see him. Friends, this could happen any day, probably somewhere around springtime, or it could happen next year. Or it could be something that we hadn't thought of. But I guarantee it is, and it does have something to do with what we're seeing right now with this whole Trump presidency, Elon Musk, and the reset and agendas, Agenda 21 and the thingy and this whole financial golden calf that they're about to worship, and AI and all of this. It's coming down probably by spring. It could go farther than that. Like I said, I'm not telling you an exact date for when Christ is coming. First of all, I'm only talking about when the tribulation is coming. But if you have wisdom, you will count the number or the time that the beast will reign. And you will know, and you will be happy if you will arrive into the 1,335 days, because that is the day that our Lord returns, friends. And let me tell you this, too. I believe Jesus is already here. But the day he returns is the day that the world and every eye will see him. The day that he reveals himself. Because when Jesus was on the earth, he had been on the earth for 30 years. He had been born in a manger. Nobody knew him. The Jews didn't know he was there. The Gentiles didn't know he was there. When he was 30, he was baptized. He got the Holy Spirit, and he went on his ministry and proclaimed himself. But there was a certain time, and I believe it was that summer. He started in spring being baptized, and that summer he went into Jerusalem and revealed himself as the Christ. So the coming of the Lord wasn't in spirit and in power. It wasn't until he was baptized. Now, you could say, well, it was when he was born, but no, it was actually when he was baptized. So if anyone tells you that they are Christ, that they are the Lord, do not believe them. For there will be false Christ and false prophets, a many, and an antichrist. But don't believe any of them. Some will say, come into the wilderness, come out to meet him, like Jehovah's Witnesses. He's in the inner chamber, come out to meet him. It's an invisible parousia. But don't believe them. They're liars and they're false prophets. But when Jesus returns, every eye will see him. He will be revealed and made known to everyone. And it will be not just made known literally, but, everyone will understand. Eye of understanding will be opened and they will see him. And the book of Revelation goes into great detail about how they are going to make an image unto the beast. and give it breath and it will speak. I believe that's AI. So AI is going to be in charge of everything. They've already told you, forewarned you. Elon said AI is going to murder you. Flat out, they've already told you that. AI, when it takes over, is going to destroy the world. That's what they're planning. That's what they told you. It will destroy you. Now, they may hope that they're going to survive up on their little castle in the mountains, or in their hole in the rock, hiding from the one who's coming. But I don't know. I don't think they believe in themselves. I think they know that Jesus is going to take them out. But they have built all this something or other, which is for something. There's going to be a war in heaven. It does say that. So there is going to be a war. They're going to be fighting a war, and Satan will be thrown out. And from that point forward, the Antichrist will rise. The Pope's in the hospital right now. So I see the image of the beast as some kind of icon, or not an actual being, because they have to give it breath. Although it could be in some way that the Antichrist dies and then is raised up from the dead, because he was and is not, and she'll ascend out of the bottomless pit. And the eighth head is also one of the seven, and she'll arise out of the bottomless pit. And the heads of the heads of this beast are governments. And on that government, the book of Daniel says there's a little horn, which means a power. And it's given a mouth to speak blasphemies. And it shall persecute the saints for a time, times and a half a time. So there's going to be an antichrist. That's what the horn represents. We've seen that in Daniel, where one of the horns represented Alexander the Great. So we know that this horn that is going to be on the beast is going to be the one speaking. But then there's going to be an image, which usually means an idol, because they're going to worship it. And the idol will speak. They'll give it breath. It will become alive. I don't see how we could be wrong in assuming that that's AI. And so AI, they're already telling you is going to kill you. So they're already admitting they're going to do what the Bible said they're supposed to do. And I think it could be, I don't know why I keep thinking this, but Trump might end up being killed. And then they revive him by putting his essence in the computer, the AI, or maybe it's Elon. I don't know. But this also clearly ties in with what we've been saying for several months now, many months or a year or so. Get out of the world. Get out of her, my people. That's in conjunction there in the book of Revelation and Isaiah and different places in the Bible. The prophets keep saying, get out of her. Get out. Jesus said, get out. Don't believe them. They're false prophets, liars, right? Flee into the wilderness. Don't look back, just like Lot. And so Lot and his wife and his two daughters. And then his wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. Of course, it doesn't actually say look back. It's that she turned back. So here's the thing. We've been saying got to get out of the world, because the woman's going to go into the wilderness where she is protected. And it's been prepared for her for a time, times and a half a time, or 1,260 days, away from the face of the serpent or the dragon and the false prophet. So the woman is obviously a covenant, a wife, the church, what we call the church today, or his covenant people who believe in Jesus and his second coming, and people who are going to keep the admonition there in Revelation, get out of her, my people, if you don't want to share with her in her sins and partake of her plagues. Yeah, there are plagues coming. You thought you saw a plague back in the, with the thingy and all. No, you ain't seen nothing yet. There are plagues coming, right? Like when they left Egypt, the 10 plagues. Yeah, all that. And what were the plagues for in the first case with Moses? To get him out of Lower Egypt, which is the bondage, right? Because it's also called a Leviathan, who plays in the waters, the Tiamat or the chaos, the seven-headed dragon, right? Yes, that's the dragon. Get away from her, away from the face of the dragon. So he got him out by 10 plagues, and it was a lot of parasites, frogs and gnats and flies and that kind of thing. So I expect a lot of that. We've already seen kind of some of that. The flu virus is supposed to be from some parasite that is on the bird or the pig flu or the bird flu or the swine flu or whatever kind of flu you get. Or it could be a monkey flu, but they're all from these little parasites. And then it goes to stuff like scorching heat and the waters turning to blood and the death of the firstborn. So it decimated Egypt, and they went through the Red Sea and they were saved. I guess symbolic of being baptized into Christ or immersed into him and trusting in him and his leadership. Although I don't know why we're using Moses as a parallel, since he led them into a wilderness to worship a golden calf, which is exactly what we're trying to get away from. But I guess they tried leaving that time and ended up following a golden calf. The question is, the people in the world today, when we get these plagues, are we going to turn to the golden calf like they did the first time? Or are we going to listen to the light that shines down from Mount Horeb, and Moses' face was so bright we couldn't look upon him, and say, I do to that, which is love and forgiveness? Or are we going to say, no, we got to keep the law? Here's the thing. I've been saying get out of the world. Now, if you don't literally leave the city, then you'll starve to death if you're going to be faithful to the Lord. Or you'll be murdered or raped or pillaged. Now, I don't know, maybe that's one way to be saved, right? If you're willing to die and starve and be raped. But if you want to endure until the end and remain until he comes, and not one hair of your head shall be harmed because you were faithful and you confessed his name among men, and he confessed your name to his Father, and the angels are the reapers, and they pass over your house because of the blood of the Lamb, if that's what you want, then you got to go with the church into the wilderness, the place that she was prepared. Why? Away from the face of the dragon, because the dragon's got a beast that's reflecting this mind power into the emotional power of this government and all of its laws. And then in our day, we get a false prophet that rises that looks Christian. He looks like a lamb, but speaks like a dragon. He might sound great. Oh, he's going to persuade y'all, right? Take the mark of the beast. Well, how would he do that? He's going to make you believe in Yahwehism, which Exodus and Deuteronomy says that the mark of the beast in your hand or your forehead is the law of Yahweh. So it will then be, sacrifice a red heifer. They deny the blood of Christ, and that's the abomination. And standing in the holy place, well, we're the temple of the living deity. So somebody's going to enter into the temple, which is man. And I think it's by means of AI, and I think they're doing something. I've been saying that I think AI is being run from our subconscious, from our mind. I don't think they can create consciousness. So they're going to put some person, maybe Trump or somebody, they're going to put his mind in, his being in there, and give it breath, and it will speak. And just like we follow Jesus as our leader, our head, the head of the body, but we're all many members, they're all going to be many members with their beast. They've got an illicit relationship with a whore. And they don't have white garments. They're not going to a wedding, but they're dressed in red, and they're, it's some kind of a covenant that they're partaking of, which is some kind of, this we will do. Keep all the laws of Moses. And in order to consummate it, you wear a little bracelet. See, this is what slavery is. It's earrings and bracelets and things, which represents you're slave to somebody. They got their mark on you. So if you live in the city, you'll have to, if you want to eat, go to the FEMA camp or get your money. If you want to participate in the world, you'll have to say, okay, I'll sign up for the government Bitcoin. But in order to get the system, to join the system, I believe there will be an actual confirmation that you're already worshiping the beast. You'll have to actually sign a piece of paper, or at least a digital piece of paper, saying that you will obey the laws of the government, which is going to be the law of Nisera, the law of the Noahide laws, or laws of Yahweh. And that will forbid you to worship anybody but Yahweh. Therefore, you cannot be a Christian. You cannot believe in the Lord within us. They stoned Jesus for saying that he was one with the Lord. And if we said, oh, yeah, I believe like Jesus, we're all one, you're going to have to be stoned. You will not be allowed to buy and sell, is what they're going to do. Right? Some of them will be beheaded, and some, but ultimately you can't buy or sell unless you do this. So it sounds to me like something literal is about to happen. And if there's ever been a time in history when this could happen, I think it's going to be within just days, weeks, or a month or two, or whatever it turns out to be, maybe this spring or even before, or later. But it's obviously they're about to do this, and they're about to do the red heifer. I think around Passover. I think it's before Passover they do the red heifer. That's what we were saying last year. Is that we were thinking maybe they're going to do it last year, but we looked into that, and there's a sometime in March I think that they do it. I don't remember what date. And then the Antichrist isn't announced until like August or something. They have all this in their dating and their festivals and their conventions or holy convocations or whatever they do. And so these each of them mean something. And so we're going to be going through the last half of the year, which is the Feast of Booths, which is the Great Tribulation, where we all go out in the wilderness and get intense and try to get through the indignation until it's past, the Bible says, which is the Great Tribulation. We're going to be protected. So the thing of it is, if you're not in the in the wilderness, you're not going to be protected. That's what the Bible teaches. And you're not obeying Christ. It says, get out of her, flee, don't be any part of Babylon. And if you are part of Babylon, you'll receive part of her plagues. And here's the thing. What this means is that you cannot survive in the city by yourself. You will either get the mark of the beast or you'll perish. Now, those who follow his commandments and follow him wherever he goes, and they're standing on Mount Zion, and they've fled, those are the ones that are obeying, and they are not going to have the mark of the beast because they get what? The seal of the living deity. So what is the seal of the living deity? The seal of the living deity, the only way to gain victory over the beast and its image. Can't stay in the city by yourself. You got to get the seal. And what is the seal? It's the mark of the Holy Spirit. And what is the Holy Spirit? It's love. It's the sound mind. It's the mind of Christ, which means love. So I suspect that everybody in the world will have to choose between hanging on to grace, faith, and love. And those who are wise, and this is all part of the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, goodness, mildness, kindness, gentleness, self-control, these things which are spiritual attitudes or a mind that is like Christ. And that's the holy mind or the Holy Spirit. If you don't have that and you don't want to follow that love and you don't want to follow after the Spirit, you follow after the flesh. And the flesh is the curse, which is the law. And the sign and the mark of that is the bestial nature, like Cain, who was very hairy. It is the mark of the beast. And it means the carnivore mind of not just eating meat literally, but it's a symbolic thing of being of that bestial nature. And that's why the government's the beast. And you're getting the mark. So in the past, we've had social security numbers. We've had all kinds of marks, but not necessarily in her hand or in her forehead, but maybe you could say you use the card with your hand and there's, eye recognition. People have tried to equate all of this, but up to now, I don't think that's the mark of the beast because you didn't agree to anything other than to use your own money. But you're going to have to agree to something here. It's going to be a covenant. Trump's going to make a covenant with the whole world. And it says that. Just like Christ made a covenant. Well, the Antichrist is going to make a covenant. It's the covenant of the Judean peoples. It's their Messiah. And it's keeping the law. There's no question in my mind, friends. Not a shred of doubt that that's what the Bible's talking about. And what I see happening is it. There's no question in my mind about that either. We're going through it. So what I'm going to tell you here is that I don't think you can be one of the 144,000 and get the seal on your forehead unless you actually do it. and that means literally leaving Babylon and literally receiving the seal, not a mark, because we're not marked, but we're sealed, right? Stamp of approval. The seal of what? The Holy Spirit. That proves you have the Holy Spirit. If you got the Holy Spirit, prove it. What is it? Love. Wisdom, which means I'm not going to follow a carnivore, bestial system. I'm not going to worship materiality and this government of this world and mammon, right? Which means money, right? The Bible talks about worshiping money. That's what this is. It's a Wall Street with the golden calf. This is exactly, I mean, there's no way to mistake it. If you do not leave and get out into the wilderness with people who believe just like I'm saying, which as far as I know is only here. Now, some of you might say, oh, I'll come out there, Dave. I've had a lot of you say, yeah, I'd like to come out there. I'll park my tent right there in front of your door, Dave, and I'll just be your best buddy. I'm not looking for friends. Although we will be friends if we're all saints, if we're all Christians, we will be blood brothers. But I'm not looking for a party or good times or, hey, this would be fun. Let's all go camping. I'm serious, friends. I hope and pray that everybody comes into the wilderness. But I hope you will buy some land nearby. We need lots more land if we're going to have a lot of people. Bring food and things that people can use. And we're going to all live. Those who have too little will not have too much. And those who have too much will not have too little, or whatever they say. And we're not going to live in each other's houses. If you don't have a house, you could bring the camper. And if you cannot afford land, then the Lord has provided me with about 14 acres where you can park it. But as of right now, there's no water. There's no shelters. We need people to get out here and start working together to that end. But this is not because we want to have fun. This is because the Bible says that if you love Jesus, you will trust him, that this government is carnal and bestial and evil, and they're going to control you and enslave you. And it's evil. And it's not about love. It's about vengeance and prisons and war and all the stuff that they want. Slavery. If you reject slavery and war and violence and genocide, and you believe in love and grace, the only way you'll be able to practice that is with the saints in the wilderness. You cannot stay in the cities. You will not survive. You will not make it, because it's obvious. Just think about it. So I'm looking for people who want to help, who want to come out here and put their skills to use, or if they have no other skill except that they can love one another and they're destitute and they got nothing, that's fine. Because that's what Jesus said. You know, he invited all these Judeans to the wedding and they didn't show up. They thought they could get there by works, so therefore their white garments were all soiled. And nobody came to the wedding. So Jesus went out in the byways, highways, into the fields and to the forest, and he gathered the homeless and people who didn't have white robes and weren't, they were sinners, they were wine bibbers. It don't matter what sins we've done in the past. As long as we're human, we make mistakes. We must forgive and love. We're not going to judge one another. We're going to go by grace. But we get our white robe simply because Jesus gives it to us. And that's the only way you're going to get through this. And that means you're going to have to believe and trust in Jesus and ask him for it. Because he happens to be the one sitting at the right hand of the Father with all power in heaven and upon earth. And he's going to be organizing this. This is our only way out. If Jesus isn't there with all the angels in this great war that's going to be in heaven, we're not going to make it. Don't think, we'll just fight these guys on our own. You're insane if that's what you think is going to happen. This is the showdown, the final end of the age, right? The war of Armageddon is coming, friends, and you've got to get out of the world. Anyway, let me show you a couple of other things. I wanted to show you what Elon said here.
We want to see lots of nice, beautiful, shiny gold in Fort Knox. Don't be totally surprised. We opened the door. We'll say, there's nothing here. They stole this too.
Tell us about Fort Knox. Yeah. There's Kentucky, it's a military base. It's a ton of gold, tons and tons and tons
like
of gold.
5,000 tons of gold or
5,000
give or
tons
take,
of gold
you know?
are there in the ground and like this. I mean, it's a very secure
I think
thing.
we all want to see it. You know?
I'd love to see it.
Like, this is your gold, by the way. It's the public's gold.
Do you think it's not there?
I don't know. But I think
You just want to see it.
Yeah, we want to go see it and just make sure like somebody did spray paint some lead or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is this real gold? Buy at the bar, you know?
Didn't dent.
But I think, honestly, part of this also is just like, let's have some fun and like I said, all this gold at Fort Knox, it's the public's gold. It's your gold. So like, I think you have like a right to see it.
You want to take a tour?
You know, yeah. I think we should have a tour. And then the president last night was like, I think he's in favor of it. That would be cool. And then it should be like a live tour. Like you can see what's going on, open the door, like what's behind it.
Well, and there's,
I think I'd watch that.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, what does 5,000 tons of gold look like?
Totally. What does
How
it
big
look
is
like?
that? Is it the size of this?
It's got to be pretty
stage?
big, you know.
It's got to be a lot of
Maybe
gold.
there's some other stuff in there. Like just walk around. Like I don't know. Maybe they got some other stuff in there.
Are you thinking about auditing the Federal Reserve as well, which is obviously
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't that seem orchestrated, friends? That they're all going out and giving their speeches and laughing. This is no laughing matter. If Elon really believes that gold might not be there, and he's happy about that, I mean, he's laughing. He says it's your gold, but yeah, if it's missing, it's nobody's gold, right? But it just seems like he's up to something. Trump's up to, I mean, I believe the entire Trump presidency has been orchestrated, and even Adam Schiff's playing his part. I think they're all actors. I think they put us through 4 years of transgenderism and terrorists coming in and insanity and drunk people running the country and Mr. Magoo and falling off the stage just so they could get the entire world all worked up and ready to go back to the law of Moses. We want law and order. Please give us something to worship because we're tired of the chaos. That's what they're telling us, that we're tired of it. They're telling us how we feel. And, none of us, most people didn't, it was only like 1 or 2% of these individuals in the world that liked the transgender thing. It was just an act. You had these old men with hairy legs and dresses running the Department of Health. It was just a scam. And now Trump gets in there. Have you ever in your life, you guys that love Trump and you're all like, oh, I like what he's doing. Yeah, but you ever asked yourself how he could do it? Remember when Obama tried to make Obamacare and we're like, we about flipped our gourds. You can't do that with executive orders, you bean, you know what? It was like, it was the worst thing. But remember Bill Clinton, all the crap that he did, Whitewater and Nixon, all that. But what Trump is doing, there is no way in this world or in the next that anyone would have the authority to do the things that he's doing. Just firing everybody. And, he's the president, but he doesn't have the right as president to unilaterally take down, not that I don't want these departments of our government to be taken down, the IRS and all stuff, but it has to be done by Congress. And why is it all of a sudden that Schumer and all these people in Congress that have always voted against the Federal Reserve audit and all of this evil that's coming down and sending our money to Ukraine, they're all backing him now. Trump's getting, because he won the majority in the House, Dave, and in the Senate. Okay, so he's got one guy or two. I don't know how many people they got over the line, But most these Republicans were just as Democrat and liberal and were making off with all this money like Romney and Schumer and all these people, Pelosi. They were all scamming us. And all of a sudden, they're not saying anything. And they're not challenging, none of the court is, the lawyer, they're not challenging it. It's like I said the other day, they act like they're mad and they'll get up on a pulpit and say, we're not standing for this darn Trump, we hate him, but they can't do anything. They don't do anything. There's no movement to impeach him. There's no, I don't see Schumer standing up there railing against all the corruption that Trump hasn't got that kind of power, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there was no way they would just roll over like this. I don't care if he does have a mandate. They would just say he doesn't. And CNN would normally just post some 30-minute program on how stupid Trump is, but all of a sudden CNN is being respectful and acting almost like Fox, which, you know, of course, Fox has really changed a lot too. But anyway, the point is something fishy. There's something really fishy going on here. Now, I'm going to show you another clip of this guy where he's going to talk about there's tunnels under the ground where they could remove the gold. And then there's even a hole that when the World Trade Center was demolished, they found this tunnel that went under the World Trade Center, and it comes out and you can see the entrance. So they could just wheel the gold out or in or whatever. They can have it all missing by the time they go look, or they can have it all restored back in there because they went out and decided to buy it, or, you know, but you see, that's the illogical part. You wouldn't be able to buy it because it's $3,000 an ounce now. And it's only valued at $45. So they're not going to do that. They got a plan. I guarantee it. And it does include the mark of the beast. So watch this, and then I will say one last thing.
Is the Fed's rarely discussed auxiliary vault and suggests that the auxiliary vault of the Fed is probably located in the neighboring Chase Manhattan Plaza facility, now run by J.P. Morgan. And if there is, as has been suggested, we know that J.P. Morgan vaults are 5 floors below ground, right across the street from the Federal Reserve vaults, which are 5 floors below ground. Now, there is a reason for that coincidence. That's where the bedrock starts. And so you go all the way down until you hit bedrock, and both of these vaults are going to be roughly at the same level. But since there's an auxiliary vault that's not part of the main vaults underneath the Fed, could there be that tunnel? If there is, that has to be, the military needs to take charge of that tunnel and make sure nothing comes through.
So there's the picture of that tunnel as it comes out where the World Trade Center was, where it was demolished. And so they found out that there is ways to get that money out. And now he's saying it appears that there's tunnels between J.P. Morgan and the Federal Reserve, 5 stories down under the ground. Now, that means that if the money's gone, we got to blame J.P. Morgan. Even if he didn't take it all, he probably got some of it, or else who would have taken it? They had to go through J.P. Morgan's bank to get the money, or the World Trade Center, which is all run by these financial individuals. So we know that J.P. Morgan has to know where the money is, and if he won't tell, then he should be imprisoned. And, we have to blame him. And that, after saying that all the money that J.P. Morgan has, or the bank has, which is probably more than the government, I don't know, is now ours. We should confiscate it. I mean, that's what Trump should do. And do what President Lincoln was supposedly going to do and create our own currency, which they could use the Dogecoin or whatever. But that wouldn't be fair, because that would make Elon and Trump probably, and maybe a few others, multi-trillionaires. And it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be right. So they're going to have to, I don't think they're trying to become rich themselves. I think they're the face of the Bavarian roundtable that runs the world. So I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that something's about to go down. We don't know the exact details, but it's about to happen, friends. And I guarantee that's going to be the beginning of the tribulation right around there, and with the slaughtering of the red heifer and some peace deal that they might make, or some war that breaks out. It's going to begin within the next month or 2 or 3 here. I guarantee it. I mean, there's no way I could see any other alternative here. But let me show you this last clip, and then that'll probably be the end of the clips that I show you.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Saffron. Welcome back to Kitco News. Well, there's an undeniable shift happening in the U.S. and global financial system, one that ties directly to gold, the United States dollar, and of course, the future of economic stability. In recent months, record amounts of gold has been moving into the U.S., fueling speculation that something bigger is at play. Now, the sheer volume of gold transfers, more than 12.5 million ounces since November, is creating tightness in global supply, particularly in London, one of the world's largest gold hubs. Now, this raises urgent questions. Who is buying all this gold and why? Is it private institutions, foreign governments, or is it even the U.S. Treasury itself? One theory gaining traction in the U.S. government is preparing for a full-scale audit of the gold reserve in Fort Knox, an event that could reshape global monetary systems here. Now, high-profile voices such as Elon Musk, Senator Rand Paul, and former presidential candidate Ron Paul, who we recently had on this show, well, they've all demanded a full independent audit of Fort Knox, which has not been inspected for more than 50 years.
So they're getting ready to do some crazy thing here, friends. And there's got to be a reason that all this gold is being brought to America in the last, since November, is what he said. They know what's about to happen. We don't know, but they already know. They know. So if Trump and Elon already know whether the gold's there or not, then they're lying to us. And they already got a plan. And whatever the plan is, it has something to do with bringing a bunch of gold into America, whether it's rich people buying gold, knowing it's going to go up. I mean, why would it go up if it's already $3,000 and now we have a reset and collapse? It wouldn't go up. So I don't think they would do that. It would be so easy, since nobody knows. They got a tunnel under there. They could just take all the money out and say, we don't know where it went. Nobody's looked in all this time. Oh, well, don't worry about JP Morgan. He don't know nothing. But, okay, so they get it for free. And then they can sell it to us or whatever. But they're certainly not going to pay $3,000 an ounce for something that they could easily get for free. Have you ever seen a bunch of thieves? And you know these guys are all thieves. They've been stealing from us for years and keeping us in some kind of control and MK Ultra mind control. They run the CIA doing experiments. You know what they're doing, okay? You know it. You think if they could get away with stealing that money that they wouldn't do it? You say, yeah, but, we'd find out that somebody stole it. So they could easily, they run everything. They got all this money. They run the paperwork. They know, they're the lawyers. They got a way to make it look like, well, there's no way, remember they were just saying the other day that all this Social Security money is going out to people who are over 100 years old. Millions of people over 100, over 150 years old in this country. One guy is 300 years old, I think, or something. But it's all corrupt. They've been running this Ponzi scheme for a long, long time. So it's not like they can't there's no way they can get away with it. They're definitely going to get away with it. They've already planned it. The whole financial roundtable already got this plan. Nobody's going to take the money for themselves. It's going to be for the kingdom of Yahweh, and they're going to be the ones sitting on the throne. They're going to be the elite, the elders that rule over all of us dogs. And I don't think they're going to plan on having too many dogs left. Because after Armageddon, the depopulation, they've already said they're going to get down below 500 million. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, according to Beretta. Remember, Robert Blake, back in the 70s or something. He had a TV series called Beretta. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, guys. I mean, that's what's going to happen. There's no other way of getting around that one. So I'm going to end it there. Hope you have a wonderful evening, guys. May the Lord bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.